From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Tuesday, May 6, 2025. Senior Indigenous leader Marcia Langton says Anthony Albanese must use his new power to be courageous in Aboriginal policy and go beyond acknowledgements of country to real solutions for extreme disadvantage. That's an exclusive, live now at theaustralian.com.au. The government and opposition are back in Canberra, with Anthony Albanese planning a reshuffle and the Liberals dealing with the loss of their leader, a ballot for the top job, infighting in the senior ranks, and now an exodus of donors. The Australian's revealing today Anthony Albanese is seeking new trade deals with the European Union and India, offering to shake up policies from the luxury car tax to critical minerals. That's as Donald Trump announced a whopping 100% tariff on all foreign-made movies, sending the Australian film industry into a spin. The count continues in the Senate, with the Greens bragging they'll host the balance of power. But how well did the Greens really do at this election? And could Labor and the Liberals team up to freeze them out altogether?
One, two.
This is what the Greens used to be like.
3, 4, 5.
In this campaign ad from 2007, a little girl picks petals off a daisy. She's adorable in a field of flowers, nature unspoilt. But her innocence is contrasted with a world melting down. Fire, flood, filthy industry, belching fumes.
The stakes are too high to ignore climate change. Take action. Vote Green. Spoken and authorised by Bob Brown, Australian Greens, Canberra.
Now the Greens sound more like this.
One of the things that we are incredibly proud of is our role in keeping Peter Dutton out.
This is Greens Party leader Adam Bandt, who's talking a big game.
The Greens have achieved a record Senate vote. We're nudging 14%. The Greens are now in sole balance of power in the next parliament.
Dennis Shanahan is the Australian's national editor. And Dennis, we're here to talk about the Greens and the Senate. Adam Bandt, the leader of the Greens, is fighting to hold on to his own House of Representatives seat of Melbourne. But he's very confident. Has this been a good election for the Greens?
It's been a disaster. And what Adam Bandt is doing is adopting the spin that the Greens have done over the last 5 consecutive elections. The Greens have gone backwards, the Queensland state election, the Northern Territory election, even in the Green Dome of the ACT in Canberra in the ACT election. They went backwards in the Brisbane City election, and now they've gone big time backwards at the federal election. Now, what he says is true. Their bigger overall vote is better, and that's what they said about the other results as well. But if the Greens' votes are not concentrated, if they start to diffuse, as has happened in those 3 key seats in Brisbane, then they start to run up against the power of the Labor Party and the Liberal Party, or the two of them combined, and they start to lose seats. If Adam Bandt, of course, loses his seat, then his leadership is a moot point. But if he doesn't, and he does hold his seat, his leadership may still be in danger. It is Adam Bandt putting the best spin possible on what is a bad election result for the Greens.
The only barrier to getting dental into Medicare now and passing it through the parliament is Labor. The only obstacle to making childcare free is Labor. The only obstacle stopping new coal and gas mines from being opened is Labor. We stand ready in the Senate to make this the most progressive parliament that Australia has seen.
So just looking at the Senate, what are they left with now in the Senate?
Well, we expect that they'll have 11 seats. With 11 seats, that means that they can be the sole arbiter of the balance of power in the Senate, that Labor has to come and deal with them, but that's where we have another misrepresentation by Adam Bandt. The biggest single bloc apart from the Labor Party in the Senate is the coalition. The Liberal National, Country Liberal Party and Liberal Party senators, they are the biggest single bloc. And it is the coalition senators who, if they decide to do so, can make the decisions in a deal with Labor, which makes the Greens totally irrelevant. They are irrelevant in the House, as are all the Teals, no matter how many they end up with, and they may end up with fewer than they thought. They will be irrelevant in the House of Reps, and the coalition can make the Greens irrelevant in the Senate.
It's not so long ago that we were thinking about the possibility that Labor might need the Greens in the House of Representatives to govern. But in reality, the Greens are, in a lot of parts of Australia, more of an enemy for Labor than the coalition are, aren't they?
Oh, certainly. And Anthony Albanese made it clear for months. And I must say, he's been saying quietly that he thought Labor would be able to defeat Adam Bandt in his home seat of Melbourne. He's been saying that for months. Now, that hasn't come up in the polling, but it has been part of Anthony Albanese's belief and his strategy and tactic. Because when it looked like the Labor Party may at best get returned in minority, Anthony Albanese and the ALP campaign decided they would target the Greens. The Greens were on the nose generally, and Labor made sure, and Anthony Albanese consistently said, we will not deal with the Greens. And the Greens said, and this is, I think, a mistake by Adam Bandt very early, saying we will do what we have to do to keep Peter Dutton out. He dealt the Greens out of the equation. Now, of course, as it turned out with this massive majority, a historic majority for Labor, the Greens are well and away irrelevant in the House. They may even be wiped out of the House. This has always been part of Labor's plan, and what we're seeing is spin from the Greens because they are not the sole balance of power in the Senate. It is now the coalition is the second largest group after the government.
Let's have a look at that seat of Melbourne, which on Monday afternoon Adam Bandt said he was confident about, but of course he acknowledged that as postal votes come in, that they would be less likely to favour him than the other candidates. That was a Labor seat for most of its history. Now Adam Bandt holds it. It's a very urbane, sophisticated inner city seat, Dennis, and now the possibility is that it would go back to Labor. What's going on there at this election? Why is Adam Bandt at risk of losing his seat?
Well, the Greens, of course, were always going to have trouble in the inner city seats, particularly those with high Jewish votes. They have failed to win Wills from Peter Khalil. They were confident that the Greens would win Wills. They were confident that they would win Macnamara. Well, not only have they not won those, they've lost two others, maybe three, and maybe Adam Bandt's own seat. So there is no doubt, as the Jewish leaders have said, that the Greens have suffered from their pro-Gazan, pro-Palestinian, toxic anti-Israeli position, which has been taken as being anti-Semitic. It also was seen to be aligning itself, the Greens aligning themselves with violent demonstrations, not to mention being seen as far more extreme than Labor when it comes to rent control, negative gearing, capital gains tax, all of those issues. And in those electorates, some of them quite wealthy electorates, they are issues that count.
Coming up, how the major parties could freeze out the Greens altogether. Rent, free dental on Medicare, free mental health on Medicare. Those are the things that Adam Bandt spent the election talking about. Is that part of the issue for the Greens, Dennis, that their foundations as an environmental movement, of course they had their first senator elected in Bob Brown in 1996, and you and I are old enough to remember when they were ridiculed as Snugglepot and Cuddlepie. They were the fairies at the bottom of the garden kind of cuddling toadstools. That ground, the environment and climate, is now something that Labor talks about, even the Coalition talks about. Have they lost their kind of reason for being now?
Well, when you consider Peter Dutton may have lost, but the one thing he did about nuclear energy was frame it as an environmental issue. And yet the Greens, who used to lead a charge out there, ban uranium, a bit like banning oxygen, they have failed in this campaign because they have moved so far away from the environment to radical politicisation of issues that there are older Greens who were, by the way, turning the people who actually voted for Bob Brown that you mentioned in 1996, how old are they now? The Greens have aged. The Greens have become grey Greens. They have moved out into more affluent suburbs, and this is part of the loss of the Greens' power. The other issue is their economic irresponsibility. And this is where there is a real weakness and an opportunity for the decimated Liberals, because any smart coalition leader would turn around and say to Anthony Albanese, listen, we don't want you to have to deal with the Greens, so join us let us join you in an economic responsible way. If the coalition can say to the public and to the government, we can do away with the balance of power situation for the Greens, they can then do that and completely make the Greens irrelevant to match their falling support and their falling performance across the country at different levels of government.
That would require quite a bit of courage from a new Liberal leader or new leader of the coalition.
Well, the Liberals have to decide who they want to represent, who they want to get back. Anthony Albanese, in an interview with The Australian during the campaign, said one thing he wanted to do was make Labor the party of aspiration, and that is where the Liberals need to direct themselves. Putting themselves over on the side of One Nation, away with Clive Palmer, both of whom have done very poorly, only makes them even more marginalised. Yes, it's going to take courage, but they're going to need courage to get any sort of credibility back.
Dennis Shanahan is The Australian's national editor. You can read all the latest analysis and news from the federal election and beyond right now at theaustralian.com.au.